One of the best practices you can have is put your phone on the charger and just leave it there for a couple hours. Whatever's happening in your business is not going to disappear over the course of a couple hours a day.
Hello, and welcome back to the Blissful Mompreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Christina Hall, and I'm so grateful you're tuning in today. In 2019 and 2022, I baby-proofed my small business to not only run without me, but to thrive without me, allowing me to take 2 4-month maternity leaves to be with my babies. Now I'm on a mission to help you do the same. Today on the podcast, I am thrilled to welcome Maddy Fero, the inspiring founder of Little Rad Things, a kids' clothing brand that blends vintage-inspired designs with a commitment to ethically sourced and high-quality apparel. What started as a creative project during the pandemic, teaching herself to sew clothing for her son, has since grown into a thriving brand with a deeply engaged community of parents. From a career in broadcast journalism with NASCAR to navigating her journey through entrepreneurship, Maddy has always maintained a heart-centered approach to both business and family. In today's conversation, we talk about the unexpected path that led her here, her commitment to balancing motherhood with her work, and the power of creating systems in her business to support her growth and flexibility. We also dive into her passion for creating job opportunities that offer the same flexibility to others. Maddy's story is such a testament to the magic that can happen when you take a leap of faith and follow your passions. So I'm so excited to share this interview with you. Let's dive in. Well, Maddy, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's so nice to have you. So can you just start off by telling us a little bit about your journey and, your background?
Yeah, of course. My journey is pretty wild. If you would have told me a decade ago that I would own a kids' clothing line and that I'd be growing it to a million plus run rate, I would laugh at you and say you're crazy. My career background is actually in broadcast journalism. And in my early 20s, out of college, I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina with aspirations of being an Erin Andrews, but for NASCAR. I was super fortunate and I ended up actually getting a job in NASCAR pretty fast after moving to Charlotte. And I did that for around 3 years where I met my husband. And then some shifts happened in the sport and I ended up moving out of NASCAR and moving on with my career, and having kids. And it's all kind of been a whirlwind, quite honestly.
Yeah, I can only imagine. That's wonderful. And what made you want to transition from working in marketing into, building your own brand?
Yeah, well, I think a pivotal thing for most business owners and just most people in their career was COVID, right? We look back at 2020 and we were stuck in our homes. I was a new mom. My son at the time when COVID started was only 4 months old. And at the time, I was working for a fitness franchise based here out of Charlotte. I was a franchise business coach. So I was working with fellow entrepreneurs that ran gyms. And when COVID happened, their gyms were put on lockdown and they were freaking out about how they were going to continue to have cash flow, how they were going to retain members. And I honestly felt like a therapist. I would say I'm very caring in nature. So I had developed these amazing relationships with these business owners. And I was on the phone with them from 7 a.m. in the morning until 7 p.m. at night, typically, talking about strategies to, keep their businesses afloat. In the few downtimes I had, I decided to pull out a sewing machine in my closet that had been sitting there for like 3 years from a Christmas present. And I taught myself to sew. So I was sewing little garments for my son Paxton that he could wear and be comfortable in outside as we were playing and doing things when you're stuck at home for months. And I started posting pictures of him on the internet because that's what we do as moms. And my friends were wanting to buy what I was sewing. And when we started to have that realization that, what I was doing was pretty unique, my husband was like, you pour so hard into these entrepreneurs that you're working with. Like, why not take a chance on yourself and become a business owner yourself and follow your passion. You're clearly passionate about this. So that's really the root of where Little Rad Things began was clothing that I was making that honestly wasn't sewn very well, but people liked it enough that, I knew I was doing something different in the marketplace.
Wow, that is just so inspiring and just such a wonderful story. I just love how like organically it came about, and again, I can just see in the way that you're like talking about your whole experience, and I could just see you really care deeply about people. And I also think that's what attracts so many people to your brand. In preparing for this episode, I was reviewing your website and your Instagram and whatnot, and I just can like see the heart behind what you create, which is just amazing.
Thank you. That makes me want to cry. It really is the coolest thing and the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, quite honestly.
Yeah, uh, being an entrepreneur really challenges us to be the best version of ourselves and just constantly, we have to strive to achieve things we didn't think were possible. So, that's wonderful. How have you found balancing being a mom and an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's a great question. And my husband, if he was here, he would say I don't have balance, although I would debate him on that. It's very, very difficult. And I think no one can pursue entrepreneurship knowing that it's going to be easy. I mean, there are a lot of coaches now on the internet that tell you it's quick and it's fast and you can make a lot of money, but that I generally from successful ones I have met, that is not the case. But what I really try to prioritize is blocks of time for my kids and being really strategic myself on when I focus on my work. So when they're at school and daycare, that is the meat of my work time. But I also spend a lot of mornings. I wake up very early and I go to bed pretty late because those are the times that my kids are not awake and I can get more done. I will say, I think, our kids are only a certain size for so long. And so I really try, if you can't find a ton of balance, one of the best practices you can have is put your phone on the charger and just leave it there for a couple hours. Whatever's happening in your business is not going to disappear over the course of a couple hours a day. Like to truly be present, like eat your meals with no TV, no screen time, like take a half an hour and go outside for a walk while they ride their bikes. Like those little moments really add up. And on the flip side, your kids watching you grow a business or pursue your dreams, that's inspiring for them too. Like my oldest son has seen Little Rad Things take off since he was 2.5. And now he gets very excited about it. He wants to know what's happening, how many orders I had, if he can help
Oh,
pack orders. So there's it's tough to balance, but there are a lot of positives to having something that keeps your attention too.
absolutely. Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. Like I actually did an episode going back about mom, like reframing mom guilt and that whole idea of, we are setting an example for our kids by pursuing something. And because it is so easy to feel guilty when we have to maybe say no to something, to take care of something in our business. But then, like you also said, just kind of finding those moments where you can put the phone on the charger, sit down for dinner, and really have conversations with our kids and not be tethered to our phones. Like all of that is extremely important. Yeah, and thank you also for acknowledging that it is hard. It definitely isn't easy, but I think there are things that we can do to make it a little bit easier to
For
find that
sure.
balance. Yeah, I
For
love
sure.
the time blocking. I'm really big on that as well.
It's the best way to be to truly, get as much done as you can, maintain focus, and then you don't feel like you are giving anything up or doing anything half. I know
Hmm.
when I first started my business, like there were times where I was trying to do both, be a mom and be present with my kids at the same time. And it really doesn't work that way. I find that they enjoy me a lot more when I just put my phone somewhere else or turn it off and spend that hour with them and then spend another 30 minutes on my business later where their dad is fully present with them,
Mhm.
versus trying to balance both. I actually had a moment where my oldest like looked at me once and was like, "Mom, can you just not be on your phone?" And he
Oh,
was like 4 years old. And that was really eye-opening to me that he was, signifying and noticing that I was not present and I was on my phone a lot. So it
we
happens.
all fall into that trap. Yeah. And I think it's a testament to the mom that you are, that you were able to acknowledge that, receive that information, and then go, okay, I'm going to make a change. This is
Thank
my
you.
son telling me what he needs. So that's really great. So now I assume you have a team working, with you. How large is your team?
You would think that I would have a huge team. It's really just me and my mom helps me part-time right now, which
Wow.
might be very shocking to your audience, but hopefully also inspiring. So,
Certainly.
as I mentioned a little bit earlier on in the show, my business is about to be three this coming week on the 3rd. I cannot believe that it's been 3 years. And we're doing close to around 1 million in revenue, but what's crazy in the game space of it all when it comes to business ownership is there are a lot of things that you can truly do by yourself until you absolutely have to outsource. And some may argue that I'm limiting myself by not having a bigger team at this point, but really we're just in a growth mindset and I'm enjoying every moment of it. So it's pretty much me, myself, and I. And then my mom helps pack things for me because we do get quite a few orders, which is nice. But
Wow. That is incredible, really, to have built like such a large business, with just you and a little help from your mom. Wonderful. Really, you should be
yeah.
so proud of what you've accomplished.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot, but what we're really excited for is we are in the stages of looking for warehousing where we are located at. We've really kind of operated honestly out of our home and with a storage unit up to this point. And what we're excited about is continuing to expand so that we can, employ moms in my community and dads if dads are
Mm,
interested. But I know a hard thing for us as mothers is, balancing these crazy schedules for our children. I mean, my
mhm,
oldest is officially in kindergarten. We have soccer practice, we have karate, and
mhm.
I don't know how I would do it. So shout out to all the moms that are working full-time jobs in a corporate office, driving to and from every day because I mean, my goal was always to try to figure out how to have a flexible life for my kids and fortunately, I've been blessed with that and hopefully I can bless some other moms and dads with that as well as we continue to grow.
Oh, yeah, that's great. You're so right. It is so hard, I think, for moms and dads to find jobs that offer that flexibility where they can be, around for some of these events. My oldest is also in kindergarten, and I'm just amazed at the amount of things that we have to do. Just yesterday, I mean, it was Halloween. We're going to the Halloween parade, and there's just, if I had that standard 9 to 5 job, it would be really hard to be at all of these things. So there's definitely a need for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm always preaching on this podcast the importance of having systems in a business. That was like the most eye-opening thing for me when I really started creating systems and whatnot. What role have systems played in your business and helping you scale?
Yeah, I mean, systems are everything. To be a good business owner, you have to be a good operator, which comes with systematic processes. And fortunately, with my background as a business coach, that was like a big root of my job was making sure that the business owners I was working with had systems in place to manage their teams and truly be able to effectively scale their gym operations. So for me, Little Rad Things, I know we're still kind of small yet mighty. But I truly live and breathe by time blocking. I have a lot of automated softwares in place. I guess technically you could count, I do outsource ads management and email management. So I do have kind of external employees that work with me, freelancers.
Hmm.
So all those different systems add up and are truly what makes the ship move forward. And I think you just have to be methodical on your time management skills and how you effectively work with people and what things you are comfortable offloading. As moms, we are great multitaskers and we wear a
Mm-hmm.
lot of hats and we want to do everything, but it's just truly not achievable if you want to be your best. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I entirely answered your question with that, but I like am a super routine and processed person, and I think every day is just that system and operational process. It's so routine for me that I don't even know anything different. And honestly, when I get thrown curveballs in the business owner space, like there's a 911 emergency, that's what's hard for me because I am so task oriented.
Mm, yeah. How do you find what do you kind of tap into when you have those emergencies in your business? How do you navigate that?
I eat chocolate. I do. I think I stress eat
Yeah.
a little bit. But one thing that helps me a lot is truly taking a moment to breathe and understand that nothing is a death sentence. Are you familiar with Forleo?
Yes, definitely.
Yes. Okay, so I read her book like 2 years ago. Everything is figure outable, and it
Hmm.
truly is. It's the most basic concept. However, I think we in our own brains overcomplicate it, even when it comes to starting a business or pursuing something that we're passionate about. But I really try to bleed into the fact that I'm not going to be homeless. Like, there's only so much margin of error that I can truly have with my business that would constitute to quote unquote failure. So I just am always, if something bad happens, trying to take a breath and methodically step back and figure out how to pivot.
Hmm.
And I can even give you an amazing example of this. So
Oh, that'd be great.
yeah, we have a supplier that's overseas for Little Rad Things. We completely cut and manufacture our products down to the threads. We're in the process of transitioning to a United States supplier right now, and our Chinese supplier is kind of aware of that at this point. And we had a fall line of long sleeve t-shirts that were supposed to be made for September. They ended up not only coming late, but sizes 4T to youth medium ran like a three-quarter length shirt instead of a true long sleeve.
Oh.
As a business owner, that immediately is a panic of what can I do with these? They're already here. My customers aren't going to want to buy these. They're not right. I don't feel comfortable selling them. And quite honestly, when these mistakes happen, the supplier doesn't care. Like you have your product. They really don't care, especially
Mm,
when they know that you're leaving them and not going to bring them much business any further.
yeah.
Um, so in this instance, like I was very upset for about an hour and a half. And then immediately it was like, okay, what can I do for the best possible outcome? Can we, still try to launch these shirts somehow? Could we have another manufacturer cut them actually into short sleeves? Like, what can we do? And what I ended up doing was I went to my audience and I personally put out that these came wrong and that because they came wrong, we were selling them for like over half the normal cost of our shirts. And I wanted to see what happened like with our audience first before I just took them to charity, quite honestly. My audience bought me out of those shirts in 24 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
So
wonderful.
something that was insanely stressful. It wasn't great because I obviously lost money on that, but it ended up like building a further and better connection with my audience, just being truthful to who I am, honest with them about this amazing drop we were going to have that now unfortunately was pretty much ruined to an extent. Until they bought me out of them, it was ruined. Um, and I think, we just always have to learn how to pivot and just
Mm,
take a breath and understand that stressful things happen, but control what you can control because you can only
yeah.
control so much. You can control yourself and how you react to things.
Absolutely. Such a great story. And it just goes to show like how amazing that we live in a world where we have access to our audience like at our fingertips, you know? And I know you've built like quite a significant following. I think you're at like 80,000 followers on Instagram. Yeah, that's incredible. So yeah, to be able to like tap into that and again, like I believe I read when you filled out the survey, that one of your values might be like honesty. Is that correct? Or something along those lines? Yeah.
Yes.
And you're using that value, you know, to connect with your audience. And, I mean, I just love how you took that bad situation and turned it into a positive one.
Thank you. Yeah, honesty and transparency are one of our core values as a business, and that's something that we always stand by. That's who we are as people. In fact, my husband is honest to a fault sometimes. But it's truly been a blessing, and I think it helps my audience know who I am, you know? And in today's age and time, you can't hide who you are. Like it will come out eventually. So I've always led with, being who I am, being original to my beliefs and just going from there. You either love it or hate it. And there are some people that do hate it, and that's fine. You know,
And then
there are other
there
stores.
right. Other entrepreneurs for them. And yeah, no, I
Yeah.
definitely think it's way more important to be your authentic self. And then the right people will find you.
100%. I completely agree.
So speaking of which, the large community and following that you have, how did you go about building that following? I just find it so incredible.
Yeah, well, it's been a lot of time and effort and just passion. Social media is such a weird space, and I'm sure you've experienced that too, but I've been fortunate. I've had some videos that have virality to them, and I think that's helped my audience find me some, quite honestly. I'm very committed to social media. I enjoy it, so I post multiple times a day. I'm always doing little things to engage with my audience. For example, if somebody tags my page on Instagram, I try every couple weeks to go through the tags and send people personal videos from me, thanking them for doing
Oh,
that and for being a part of my brand, for taking the time to put my clothes on their child. I mean, what an honor. Like, I literally view that as such an honor that someone likes what I'm doing enough that they're buying it for their most beloved family member. Like,
yeah.
oh, it gets me emotional if you can't tell.
Yeah.
Um, but just little things like that, I think, really add up and have helped me cultivate a community and a following on social media. And I think the biggest thing with social, if anyone wants some advice from me on
Mm,
this, is just, don't be scared to post and be like true to yourself again. I think so much of what I posted early on was trying to fit a mold. And then when I really like broke the chains out of being in a mold for what a kid's clothing brand should look like on Instagram and started doing sarcastic reels of things that I would say about my son, like being in our yard or things of that nature, like was really when I started to see people engaging with my content and like loving what I was doing. So, just don't be afraid to like put yourself out there and stay
mm.
consistent with it. I think that's a big thing with social too.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure that like sarcastic content and whatnot was probably very relatable for a lot of moms because, you know, being a mom of young kids, there's so many crazy moments, you know.
For
So you
sure.
have to have fun with it, otherwise you'll go crazy.
Yeah, no, totally. I think one of my best reels ever was like a little boys that like models for me. He was at a skate park and he was in one of our sleepers because the sleepers are so cute to like transition into outfits, truthfully, with some of our prints. And he just immediately like dropped the skateboard and started to beeline off the camera shot. And I think I put like, when you smell mom's scent, but you're stuck with dad, because like there's something about little boys that when they like smell their mom, I truly believe that our kids can smell us. Like they just are like, I'm done with dad. Where's mom? Like,
Hmm.
I mean,
Well, so it's funny. I have a girl and a boy, and my girl is just that stereotypical daddy's girl. She like wants nothing to do with me when daddy's around, and then it's the complete opposite with my son. Everything is mommy. He like hangs on me. It's just so different, you know.
It is so different and so special. I have two boys, and we got pregnant with our second son. We didn't know he was a boy the whole time we were pregnant when we were working on launching Little Rad Things. And I say we, I mean David and myself, my husband.
Yeah.
And now I'm always like, what if we had a third? Because we're kind of in that age range where it's like we should probably do it soon if we want to have one more so they're not too far apart. And I'm just like, I don't know what I would do with a girl at this point. I'm sure it would be amazing and she would wear all my Little Rad Things stuff. But I'm like, they're just so different, like
Yeah.
polar opposites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky that we have one of each. It's just like just so perfect for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's wonderful being a mom. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. So,
Yeah.
so I love that you're aiming to be fully American made. I believe you said summer of 2025. So what inspired you to make that or to aim to make this transition?
Yeah. So it was honestly something I wanted to be from the jump. And when we first started our brand and business, we were doing blanks. So, like in the apparel game, you can buy blank pre-produced t-shirts and then you can screen print them with a design that you come up with. That's how a lot of brands honestly operate in the t-shirt kind of like apparel space. And then we went down the rabbit hole of manufacturing because when it came to buying blanks, it was hard to find American-based blanks. And as I got more educated on manufacturing, I had aspirations to find a USA supplier. And weirdly enough, I believe in higher power and like signs and call it God, call it whatever you want. I'm comfortable with any of it. But a manufacturer based out of California, a female-owned manufacturer, was trying to open an extension of her business like 20 minutes away from me outside of Charlotte back in 2022. And so I like reached out and hounded her for a meeting and she met with me and we talked about my brand and business. And at the time, I was still pretty small, like we weren't doing very much in revenue. And she was like, that's really great you're doing this. But you kind of get that vibe of like, oh, everybody does this to her. And she's like only taking on serious people to work with
Mhm.
her. And I've just stayed in communication with her over the last year and a half. And we are big enough now and have grown enough where she really was excited to work with me. And we have built a blossoming, beautiful relationship. She has become a mentor to me, quite honestly, who really believes in what I'm doing and my design aesthetic and everything. So I have been
Wow.
insanely blessed. It's not easy. I think we hear a lot in the news about how we should manufacture everything here, and it's just not easy. I will say that for the small business owner. So, really, in short, it was something that was visioned for me. Like I wanted to do it from the start, and then higher power pieces like put it in place and it's ending up happening, which is incredible. I've had a lot of things like that happen in my life and I always like to chalk it up to my dad who passed away years ago. Like I'm like he's up there just doing something, hanging out.
Yeah.
So but yeah, it's incredible and I feel very fortunate and I'm excited because, we need more jobs here. Like we need more stuff made here. So for me to be empowered to do that is really incredible and I'm really
Yeah.
grateful for it.
Yeah. Oh, it's just great. So glad that that's working out.
Thank you.
If you could go back to the start of Little Red Things, what advice would you give yourself or other moms like considering to take that like leap into entrepreneurship?
Mm, that is such a great question. I think my biggest piece of advice would be to start and to understand that it's not easy and it'll take time, but as long as you believe in yourself and do what you need to do every day, that you cannot fail.
Mm.
Um, it honestly, apparel is so much more difficult than I ever would have imagined, like when I started. But I've seen many businesses in the same vertical start, and they're owned by moms and they've been successful. And I think what's cool is I've become friends with other brand owners in the space that are doing similar stuff to me, not exactly the same because we have different style and aesthetic. And they're growing as well. I think you really just have to be consistent and be confident and know that no one's perfect. Like you just
Mm.
figure it out every day. Every day I wake up and I say, okay, I got to post on social media. I got to respond to some reviews I got last night. I need to maybe look at some advertising. And then I just do my daily tasks. And I'm like, if I chop off my daily tasks, that's three-fourths of it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Just put one foot in front of the other, right?
Yeah.
So, what has kept you motivated through those really difficult times?
My children. And I'm sure
Mm.
you can sentiment with that as well. My
Yeah.
children and at this point, my community for sure. Um, I'm so fortunate to have moms around me that truly lift me up and have gotten to know me, and I've gotten to know their kids, like, because they've shopped with me for 3 years. And so again, I'm very transparent with my community on things that are happening, and they really lift me up to keep going and fighting the fight because, as an entrepreneur every day you've got something to tackle. It never ends, but
Hmm.
it's also the greatest thing that you could ever do because your kids are watching you and it's so unique. So, um, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So what can we look forward to next from Little Rad Things? Any exciting like updates or things coming up?
Yeah, outside of transitioning to American made, I think what's really exciting for us right now is we're not only doing the apparel side, but I'm really trying to bring in some new accessory type items to our business that can really help, moms and dads closer to that newborn stage. So we're in product development for a really exclusive style diaper bag that I'm really excited
Cute.
about. That was something that was really hard for us when we were shopping for, our kids. My husband was very particular and still is on what he'll wear and carry. And so a lot of Little Rad's things is like this blissful combination of like what I like and what David likes. And
Mm.
so with a diaper bag, we're trying to be really mindful on making a stylistic bag that mom will love, but that dad would also be like really stoked to carry. So we're excited about that. And then we just came out with nursing covers. So I
Oh.
don't know if you nursed your kids, but it's basically a bamboo high quality blend
Mm.
cover that you can put over their car seat when they're sleeping, or you can wear while you're nursing. Really neat transitional piece, for the moms of true infants versus like the toddler ages.
Yeah, and what's so great about that is people with kids, in the newborn stage get exposed to your brand, and then there's apparel for their kids as they get older and grow, so they can like grow with the brand, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it is. And then what's cool about those pieces as well is I'm working to get them on Amazon. So right now we've always been on our own website. But with Amazon, like that'll help us reach an entirely different audience, which we're extremely excited about. And quite honestly, Amazon, I think, is a nightmare for apparel because I'll have one t-shirt that has 10 different sizes, and that's a lot to deal with.
Mm.
But things like diaper bags and that are really nice to potentially put in front of that audience.
Definitely. And Amazon makes things extremely easy. I mean, I just have the app on my phone and I'm always just like searching and clicking. I mean, I buy off Amazon literally every day. It's crazy.
I
So
think most of America does. Yeah.
it's, they're very clever in the way they set everything up. Do you have any words of advice for our listeners who are following a similar journey?
Yeah, I think I somewhat said that before, but really just never stop. I think the biggest thing I've learned over the last 3 years is that the more repetitions of anything in my business, whether it be designing a new garment, like working on emails, working on social media. I just get better over time. And it's so funny to me how being in business is so much like learning to ride a bike. Like the more you do it, the better you
Mhm.
get. And the more you honestly, I think, enjoy it. So just, wake up every day and do what you need to do and know that you're going to get better. And then also just understand that things happen. Like it's not perfect. Nothing is ever perfect. I had the fortune to be at a mentoring event this week, actually, and I was around some entrepreneurs who are doing a lot of revenue and have like sold businesses for multi-millions of dollars. And I found it so interesting that they actually are more unhappy than someone who's like at my stage in the game
Wow.
because they say that starting a business, like, yes, it's a lot of work, it's very stressful, but it's so fun to
Yeah.
see you do things and then get tons of orders or whatever, like impact families. We did some donations to hurricane efforts here in North Carolina because we're about an hour plus from the mountains
Hmm.
that were impacted. And even just seeing things like that, like being able to contribute to that.
Yeah.
We were able to send shirts to Hawaii after the fires last year. So just little things like that go a long way and you feel really good about it. So just start
Absolutely.
and just
Yeah.
go with the flow. Everything's figure outable, that's for sure.
Yep. Definitely. How can our listeners follow you and check out your awesome apparel?
Yeah, I would love that. So we are at the Little Rad Things. And then I'm at Maddy Fero on Instagram. We have a website, we have a TikTok, which that's a whole, we could spend a lot of time talking about that. That's like a corner of the internet and social media I don't know if I like yet still, even
Mm.
3 years in. And then if they'd love to shop with them, we'd be grateful to serve them. I can make a 20% off code,
Thank
Blissful
you.
for them at checkout if they'd like to check us out. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Oh, thank you so much for that. And Maddie, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of your wisdom that you've learned over the years. I know it's definitely very inspiring for our listeners. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me on and having this platform. I think there's so much we can learn from podcasting. So I'm grateful that you started this and chose me as a guest.
Thank you again. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Maddie as much as I did. And do check out her business, Little Rad Things. Her brand has some really unique and adorable pieces. So definitely check them out and use the code Blissful20 at checkout. And for my pregnant entrepreneurs, I've created a free 6-step maternity leave planning guide, which covers everything from how much time to take off to how to create a financial plan. You'll find the link to this guide in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a fellow mompreneur who might benefit from this advice. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell, and leave a comment below letting me know your biggest takeaway. It helps me reach more amazing women just like you. Thank you again for being here, and until next time, keep pursuing your bliss.